then I'll be in love.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you for joining us here on this Saturday afternoon on Gulfstream today. I'm Gabby Gaudette, joined by Acacia Courtney, and we have a lot to get to this afternoon. So we're going to just dive right into it, and we will start things off with kind of the buzz that was happening earlier this morning at 7:30 a.m. California Chrome's workout. I wasn't here, but I did see videos and spoke to a couple people who saw it, and they said it looked pretty good, as we can see from him, pretty effortlessly coming down the stretch.
It did, and as you said, it was definitely the buzz. There were several hundred people actually lined up along the rail here to watch him this morning as we're getting closer and closer. 2 weeks now from this Saturday to the Pegasus World Cup. That is on January 28th right here at Gulfstream Park. And of course, California Chrome, the finalist, a finalist for this year's Horse of the Year honors. And of course, looking at that workout too, they said that the track was a little bit on the deeper side at that particular time, 7:30 a.m., but he did go the 5 furlongs in 24.99, 36.95, a minute 0.74, and actually out the 6 furlongs in 1:14 and change. So very impressive workout there. Of course, he'll have one more in prep for the Pegasus. That was his penultimate workout. Now, going to yesterday, beat the expert. I did a little bit better this week than I did a couple weeks ago, but we do have, of course, 3 winners who did beat me. Hats off to them. It was a difficult card yesterday from top to bottom. Pamela Rizzo, Chris Jernigan, and Robert Perdue. Congratulations to the 3 of you. I had 2 winners. Well, at least you were moving in the right direction. You know, as you said, it was a really tough day. I think each of us, and it was funny because we were so all over the place between the 3 of us with our picks, and I think each of us had about 2 winners. So hats off to those that did beat the expert. Don't forget, that's every Friday. Ron Nicoletti will be our expert next Friday. It's really building up a fun contest to be a part of. All right, let's get to the wagering menu today. We have 12 races on tap, so plenty of options to choose from. We have that rolling super high 5 that starts in the first race. It carries on throughout the afternoon with races of 7 or more betting interest. We have $2,000 in that carryover in race 1. Race 1 also kicks off the 50-cent early pick 5 every single day. This is a mandatory payout. Acacia will have a ticket for you there. As we get to the 5th race, a new wager today on this 12 race card, the 50-cent middle pick 4. That's a really interesting wager. Of course, we kick off our graded stakes action in race 6. That is the Marshall River. So we get to the 7th race on the card. This does kick off the 20-cent Rainbow 6, that carryover over $40,000 in there. And of course, race 8, the final pick 5 of the day. That is a 50-cent based wager as well. We are fast and firm and breezy, a little bit on the cooler side for Florida standards. It is, but it is a beautiful day, and as you said, we have those 3 graded stakes today, and that middle pick 4, when we had 12 races, that featured bet does come back. It's a very popular wager as well, so don't forget about the middle pick 4. People love to bet pick 4s. I'm definitely one of them, and good races within the sequence too. As we start things off with the opener, and we'll get right to your early pick 5 ticket. Alrighty, well, I took a stab at the early pick 5. It'll be $48 for me today. I did go too deep to start it off. I really do take time to pray in here as well, but I do think that Stableford might have a shot. I did spread with 4 deep in the 2nd race. I thought that was a pretty wide open one for a 1.125 on the turf in that claiming event. 2 deep in the 3rd with Pray for Bourbon and Katinka, and then 3 deep in the 4th and 2 in the 5th for $48 for me. All right, race 1 starts the day off here. 6 furlongs on the main track for this open 6250 claimer. And I believe we might be on the same page. Not a common occurrence throughout the day, but the 6 take time to pray for Fernando Abreu, in my opinion, kind of looks like the main speed in here. Does look like the main speed, and there are some other horses that do show quite a bit of early interest, including Stableford, that other horse that I mentioned. But I think that Take Time to Pray is definitely the speed of the speed. He's a need the lead type, the 6-year-old Gelding has been in very good form over his past few races. He's a 7-time winner at the distance as well, at the 6 furlong specialist, if you will. And he's coming out of a solid race. We did see Cold Blood, the 4th place finisher, come back to win the next time out as well. And he's running against a couple in here that he's faced before.
And looking at some other alternatives, maybe the 9 Starship Apache, if someone does decide to press, take time to pray, this is a horse will be closing, but I think he kind of gets the acid test today, his first time going against open competition.
And that's the key too. I did think he was one to use. I actually scratched into him to come from off the pace, but I do like him to be sitting just behind those leaders.
Moving on to the second race on the card, an open $16,000 event, a mile and an eighth onto the turf course Acacia. And we'll start off with the number 4, Exclusive Strike, a horse that you and I both use in second place, but we'll show the replay from his performance at Gulfstream Park West last time out. Now, he did get into a little bit of trouble here. He was kind of in the back of the pack, and I thought overall how this horse found room to kind of carve out a trip and come from last to first down the stretch was mighty impressive. But he's 0 for 14 here at Gulfstream.
He is, and that was one of the reasons that I did put him in second, and I thought it was a very impressive race there that he closed from out of nowhere. And it was interesting for that mile and a 16th as well. They slowed down in the second half. You could see those fractions. It went 49 flat. And to be making up ground like that at Gulfstream Park West, we say it all the time. But there were other horses closing outside, so maybe he did kind of ride with that. He's definitely one to respect, but you and I did both go a little bit elsewhere. I had some interest in Dynamic Decision, who I do think will sit a nice stalking trip in this race here.
You land on one Armando horse, I land on the other one, the number 5, Cut to Order. He's a horse that I thought just had a tremendous amount of back class. Now, last time out, I don't really know what's happened to him. He just has lost pretty much all of his speed in his past 2 races. He's a horse that if you kind of dig back to his races in 2015, even earlier of, actually 2015, he hasn't really been showing that same kind of speed since the layoff, but he's a horse that was competitive against Grade 2 company, allowance company in the past, and maybe he is on the decline, but I just think Armando de la Cerda has done a fantastic job with what he's been sending out here at Gulfstream, so I respect both of them.
Absolutely, and you make a good point that Armando has done a great job in kind of waking up these horses, so maybe we will see one or both of them ready to fire in the second race.
Forgot to show a stat here for Exclusive Strike. Wanted to show this stat here really quickly for Jason Service.
It is a good one, so it's worth showing. This is Jason Service with horses that won last time out on route races in the mid-level claiming here on the turf, and he does win 30% of the time, 60% in the money, and it is a positive ROI of 250. So I think for all those reasons, definitely a horse you don't want to leave off of your multi-races.
All right, let's get to some maiden special weight action, and that comes in race 3, 6 furlongs onto the main track for the fillies. And the 3, Pray for Bourbon, there's a lot of first-time starters in here, but at least this is one that does have some experience, and we'll show her performance last time out. That was cutting back from the mile to the 7 furlong distance. And unfortunately, in this race, it just looked like she just could not pass the other horse just to her inside. That was actually Sand Shark. And Sand Shark, I thought, was an impressive winner for trainer Todd Pletcher. She was actually entered in a stake, but scratched out of it in her subsequent start. And I guess you could argue that maybe she's hanging here a little bit, Pray for Bourbon, but I'm going to give her one more shot on top, thinking that will do better with cutting back in distance to the 6 furlongs. I don't think she wants to go a mile or 7 furlongs. 3/4 seems like her cup of tea.
I agree. I think that 3/4 hits her right in the eye and is where she needs to be. She hasn't run at the 3/4 since her debut, which was, I know Ron Nicoletti would be a fan of that, a monster key race. We did see 5 next out winners come from that debut race, including Yellow Agate, who ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies and was a Grade 1 winner. But we haven't seen Pray for Bourbon able to get to the winner's circle just yet. Maybe it is because she's had some tough trips. She has had a sloppy track, and she has maybe gone a little bit too far that she wanted. So I used her, but I used her in second. I had some interest in a horse that's maybe it's a bit of a crazy pick in here, but I did think I might get a price on the number 4, Katinka, for Michael Yates. Does get Luis Saez in the saddle, which I do like as well. coming off a bit of a freshening, and she's cutting back in distance as well. Both of her 6 furlong races, I thought, were very good. 2 starts back, she finished behind Dude Fantasy, who did go back to win Florida Sire Stake. And we'll give a stat on trainer Michael Yates in the past 5 years going route to sprint on the dirt. He's 19% win, 45% in the money, and is a ROI of more than $5, as you might get a good price on a horse like this.
I like it. The thing with her, though, it's interesting given her running style, because you could probably just toss the 2-turn race last time out, but even in her 2 sprints on the main track, she closed from off the pace, and then the other one she showed a little bit more speed. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what tactics they take today, but she does seem like a very versatile sort. One that we both respect and use is the number 6, Run and Go. Obviously a first-time starter for Todd Pletcher, must use with Javier Castellano in the saddle, and sometimes we try to get creative in these dirt maiden special weights, and sometimes Todd Pletcher wins at 3-1.
Well, he won at 18-1 yesterday, so you can't always you can't turn a blind eye to that. And Run and Go have to a couple of graded stakes place horses, including Kid Kate, who did win at first asking, so maybe she will be ready to go right away.
Okay, and of course the 5, She's Always Ready. Now getting to a dry main track. I do like this horse a bit, as she figures to be the pace setter in there. As we get to the 4th race, a maiden $50,000 race, 7.5 furlongs onto the turf, and scratch the 3, A Fleet Doll. Acacia, you go to the outside a little bit, as do I with the 7, Quasi-Storm.
And this one for Tom Bush is dropping to this maiden claiming level. 2 maiden special weight races. In the first one, she was very wide, and she actually ran okay at Aqueduct. But I do like that she's taking a drop in class here, and we'll give a trainer stat on Tom Bush in the past 5 years, going from maiden special weight to maiden claiming on the turf with 3-year-olds. It's just a 24-horse sample size. He does win 17% of the time, in the money a third of the time, and it is a positive ROI of 224.
Okay, I like that. And I just think that all of the changes that are made today, the cut back, the clash drop, these are all right moves, I think, for this particular filly. We get to the 2, Epic Lady to the inside, a horse that you and I both use as well. She did take a slight drop in class last time out against the maiden $50,000 level. We'll show that video spotlight replay here. That was on the 8th of December locally at Gulfstream. We saw Fawn Mora, a horse, come out of that and win next out. But if you see her actually break, she is the number 10 that day, so kind of wide, a wide post position. She just gets very rank under Jose Lezcano. It looked like he tried to settle her, take her back from off of the pace, let the rest of the field go in front of him so that he could save ground going into the first turn, which he's always done a fantastic job with. But she just looked like she was not liking the restraint that he was trying to put her under. We can see still really tossing her head to the point where he has to check her, and that's not how you really want to start things off. But overall, I thought a good performance.
And she did manage to close up the rail a bit when he finally did get some room. By then, it was certainly too late, and you did have horses closing on the outside. But if you keep following the 10, she is making up ground along the rail and closing. As I said, it was too late at that point, but she was just so hard to settle early in the race that I do think you can be a bit forgiving, and she was last early too. So all in all, a pretty good performance, and she stays right at this maiden 50 level again.
And the concern today, though, is now she's cutting back from the mile to the 7.5 furlongs. Very short run into that first turn. I know she's well posted inside, but if she tries to go against the restraint as she did last time out, it might not be a good sign. The 10 Hottie Toddy was one I had some interest in too. And Ralph Nix, he's had a couple of horses on the trainer switch, and he's had a lot of success with them. And this horse is obviously well placed, dropping from maiden special weight.
And she's kind of moved forward. If you look at her buyer speed figures as well in her past 3 races, it looks like she's been moving in the right direction anyway. Maybe that class drop will certainly help her to get to the winner's circle. And I didn't show this stat, but Ralph Nix, first after the trainer switch with that class drop from special weight to claiming, he wins 33% of the time, and in the money 67% of the time with a 282 ROI. So definitely a horse to keep an eye on.
A great stat there as we get to the 5th race, a maiden $25,000 event, 6.5 furlongs on the main track. And a reminder, the very popular middle pick 4 wager does start here. It is a 50-cent based wager. And for entertainment purposes, Acacia, how do you think that you would kick things off in the pick 4 here?
Well, I had some interest in a couple of horses in here, but unfortunately they scratched. So that makes this race a little bit tougher. all along, I did like Ohio, the number 2 in here. I'd probably use the 2 in the 11 just to start it off with a couple of horses. But now, keep in mind with these maiden 25 level races, especially with some key scratches, you can get some bombers. So feel free in that middle pick 4 to throw on a couple prices if your funds do allow. Now, the number 2, Ohio, is first off the claim for Gilberto Zerpa, who is taking the blinkers off as well. They tried the blinkers last time. He was third. I had a lot of interest in him last time out when he was with Ronnie Warner. And he does get a slight step up in class, but he's run at this level and run well before. So first off the claim, which Gilberto Zerpa does an excellent job with, I think he's the one in here.
Gilberto Zerpa definitely does that. And I think the blinkers come off to maybe get him to settle, because earlier in his career, it looked like he was running better races when he could maybe stalk and have a target in front of him. So that is the right thing to do. Last time out, it was a very tough for level race. Tranquilo was a horse that was taking a big drop in class. Icono came back to win at the same level. So I'm in agreement with you there. Also using the number 11 and El Gran Noel, who I think probably has to use himself a little bit from the outside post, but he's definitely benefited from the 3 scratches to his inside.
He has. He won't have to be so far outside. He won't really be from post 11, but he does have some speed. And honestly, all 3 of his races, which were against a bit tougher company, have been pretty sharp, and he does cut back in distance a bit too.
Let's get to the 6th race on the card here, and we go to the mile and a 16th on the turf. I thought the pick 6 started here, but it doesn't. It's in the next race. We do start our graded stakes action, though, in the grade 3 Marsha's River, and we have 3 very competitive and very interesting stakes today, and this is definitely one of them.
It is definitely one of them, and Todd Pletcher does send out 2 horses in here, and both of them really do look to have a shot. I went with Sandiva. You did go with Isabella Sings, who's coming out of the same race with the number 5 Seacoast in the My Charmer, where I thought Isabella Sings was so impressive with that early speed.
She was, and she always does show that. We'll show the grade 3 My Charmer across town at Gulfstream Park West, and she has one running style. Her MO is just to go. And she did get away with kind of being used a little bit early. She opened up on the field by over 2 lengths, and then she got to settle. And that is where she does her best running, is when she can, at the beginning of the race, create some separation and then settle, slow things down for maybe the half, and continue on from there. So she really got everything going her way. But I can't foresee it being any different today. We'll get to a couple other speed types, but another thing to mention in here was the impressive performance from Seacoast. We can see the number 7 Seacoast in this race just kind of grinding out a trip, and she really had all odds against her, given the fact that Isabella Sings was able to dictate on the front end.
And she did, and that was not a day where we saw horses making up ground at Gulfstream Park West early at all, but we did see Seacoast really grinding to get that 2nd place finish. And I remember speaking to jockey Edgar Zayas after that race aboard Isabella Sings, and he said, I talked to Todd before the race. He said, just let her go. We're not going to try anything cute. She does not like to be anywhere but on the front end, and that's exactly what happened in there. Now, we do see some other horses that have some speed, perhaps Dickinson, but I don't think that they are as much of a need the lead type, or perhaps as fast as Isabella Sings.
And I think it's going to take Dickinson out of her comfort zone. Naturally, I don't think Dickinson is as fast as Isabella Sings, and it just doesn't, Kieran McLaughlin doesn't strike me as the type to kind of take a horse out of their preferred running style to kind of set it up for the rest of the field. So it's going to be interesting what tactic Johnny Velasquez takes from the outside. She probably must go a little bit because of that outside post position, but again, I don't think she's as naturally fast as Isabella Sings. So I'm predicting a wire-to-wire victory for Isabella Sings. But Sandiva arguably has more back class. Now, the question with her, and we'll take a look at the South Beach last time out, was do you think that that is an excusable performance? She was still 2nd, but she got an 88 Beyer speed figure for that, for a horse that usually averaged mid-90 Beyer speed figure. So can she improve off of that?
One of the big reasons I put her on top, first of all, was she ran a lot better last time out than I was expecting her to. She really did surprise me. She was, to be quite honest, a horse that I thought might have been a bit on the downswing, and maybe her Beyer speed figures are reflecting that. You can see this in this race, that she started closing. Right behind her was Neck of the Moon, who closed unbelievably for Chad Brown and closed wide. And I thought that Sandiva, when she had a threat on the outside, she still remained game. Maybe the speed figure wasn't as high as we've seen it, but I think that this performance proved, at least to me, that she wasn't one that's going downhill.
And she could definitely improve off of this because for two reasons. I think that she was very wide throughout in the South Beach, so she lost a lot of ground in that respect. And it looked like the pace collapsed in front of them, and she made the first move into the pace that collapsed, and she still came back. But even looking at the stretch, did she come back, or was the winner neck of the moon kind of waiting on her? I think it's an interesting race to kind of scrutinize and see if she can improve upon that, but she does have the back class to warrant a lot of respect. A very interesting rendition here of the Marshall River as we will take a break. Yes, the Rainbow Six starts in the 7th race today. That was kicking off our graded stakes action, but a lot more to come right after this commercial break.
Gulfstream is pulling away. Gulfstream blows them away with an eye-opening performance. Awesome again has won. Gulfstream kicking clear.
January 28th at Gulfstream Park, an icon takes flight. The world's richest thoroughbred horse race. 12 of the sport's finest horses. One race. $12 million on the line. Watch, wager, witness. Go to PegasusWorldCup.com for more.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Gabby Gaudette joined by Acacia Courtney. Now looking at the 20-cent Rainbow Six. We'll get right to it. I could not find a single today, but it is still an affordable ticket. The carryover today over $40,000 for the sequence. So we will show my ticket here. $48 flat using 5 horses to start things off. I like to have coverage in low-level maiden claimers. So that is exactly the plan for this Rainbow Six ticket. Using 2 horses in the next race and 2 in race 9. As we get to races 10 and 11, those are our 2 other graded stakes races, going to be using 2 in there respectively, and the 7, 8, 10 to cap it off. So $48 here, and the 6, we go 6 furlongs here on the main track for this maiden 12,500 event. Wanted some coverage. Acacia, how did you see this race?
Well, I can't blame you for wanting coverage, and people that do watch know that I hate to be kicked out in the first leg, so hopefully with coverage like that, you won't be kicked out in the first leg of the Rainbow Six. I thought there were a couple ways to go. I went all the way to the outside with the number 12. Baylock, and this one's adding the blinkers on. Now, it's a 6 furlong race. I can understand this horse is way to the outside. He's going to have his work cut out for him. I just honestly had qualms about the rest of the field, and so that's why I did land on this horse, whose races are perhaps the best in those past 3 performances.
And my kind of sour point about Baylock is that, yes, the blinkers do go on, but I liked him better at 7 furlongs because of his kind of last to first type of running style, and he just continually gets bet off of his first performance, and it was a good performance. Dubai Bob won. He came back out to win a better race on the turf, and this horse just absolutely surged on a track at Gulfstream Park West. It doesn't really favor horses like that, but he just has not showed any follow-through since then, and I'm very bitter about it, as you can see. So I went to a backup plan, and that was the number 2, Equine Perfection. And of course, this horse has question marks abound. He faltered, was vanned off last time out. That was in April. Coming back here, I just think that it's question marks, definitely, but this is a horse that sometimes they just pop up and win from their back class.
And he certainly could. I mean, he had 6 races so far against Special Weight Company, and now he's in for the 12-5 after 9 months off. So that was my question with him, but I thought he was one to use. A pretty unfortunate name for the kind of path that he's taken, but he is definitely one to use in this race, and I agree with you. This is a race that you want to have coverage on.
Even the 11 Germantown Road, I when I look at him more and more, I actually like him because 50s music, I think, dropped in class that race from, I believe, either higher level maiden claimers or maiden special weight company. So that was an okay race for the level. Again, using several horses. Maybe I could have just gone with the 2, 11, 12, as that looks like where we landed on our top 3 selections. Let's get to the 8th race, and we start things off in the final pick 5 of the day. 9 furlongs on the turf for this very tough allowance. How did you use horses in the first leg of the sequence?
I tried to keep it affordable, so I just went too deep to start it off. My ticket will be $48 once again. I also agree that I could not find a single. I used Zenner, which I think is one of the other horses that we all agree on today. Also using St. Louis to kick it off in here. Then I went 4 deep in the 9th race in a maiden special weight. I thought that there were some very nicely bred fillies in there and ones that might be able to pop up, but I do really like the number 1 Spelker for Wesley Ward. Using 2 horses in the Fort Lauderdale Grade 2, I thought about singling Heart to Heart, but I do have my reservations about him in that race, even though he is one of my personal favorites. 3 deep in the Howell's Hope, which is the 11th race, and then 2 deep to cap it off. Another race I would have liked to go deeper in, but again, trying to keep it around that $48 mark.
Zenner is where we started off, and we go back and up to Aqueduct, and that was on the 9th of November to this horse's performance, just showing him from the quarter pole and onward here. And in my opinion, kind of analyzing this particular race, I thought he was in a very tough position, chasing a 21-to-1 shot. He made the first move into that horse that kind of just stopped being on the lead anymore. The pace kind of collapsed there. He made the first move into it. It was a long shot, always a tough chasing position to be in.
It was a tough position for him, and that 21-to-1 shot on the lead was 6 lengths ahead early, so it was a tough spot for Zenner. He held on very gamely. It is worth noting Cave Johnson was in that race as well, who's also in here. Now a first-time gelding for Jimmy Toner. He was right there with Zenner, and then he faded while Zenner did hang on, which was what gave me the confidence to put Zenner right on top in here.
It was definitely a stronger performance from Zenner than the other horse that you did mention in there, Cave Johnson. But sometimes the best angle in the book is first-time gelding, so I didn't leave him off of my ticket. Keisha, you had some interest in the number 8 St. Louis as well from Mike Maker.
And I think that this one might be closer to the pace, which is what I do like about him. He does have to step up a little bit in terms of class and what the other horses in here have been facing, but I like him tactically in here, and he is coming out of some races that we have seen a couple of horses, and when he won 2 starts back, there were 2 next out winners in those races, both of whom received buyer speed figures above 84, so I like him tactically in here for Mike Maker.
Uncle Guy, I go to the other Mike Maker in here because I think he's got sneaky good races, and obviously 2 back. He was unprepared at the start, didn't get off to a great going, and this is a horse that probably wants to be a bit closer to the pace, and last time out, you could see at Churchill how much turf was being kicked up and nobody was closing from off of the pace, and he was pretty much the only horse that did to just be beaten 3/4 of a length, so we could only see what a horse like this does get, now stretching back out to 9 furlongs and getting a firmer course. So I really like him. That's where I felt confidently in just using 2 horses in the pick 6. We turn our attention to the 9th race on the card, a maiden special weight, this time 5 furlongs on the turf to kick off the final pick 4 of the day. And Acacia, this is a very tough race, and I could see this race kicking me out of the pick 6.
Well, I hope it doesn't, but I do think that it is one. If you remember, I did spread a bit in this race in the pick 5, so hopefully that'll help us get on through. And Wesley Ward does have 2 horses in here. He has the 4 Oh So Terrible that we did both use. I put the number 1 Spelker right on top, who does look to be the speed. She's drawn to the rail, which is a little bit adventurous sometimes from that 5 furlong and with these maiden races, but she does have that early speed, and she takes the blinkers off today. We'll give a trainer stat on Wesley Ward in the past 5 years, going from dirt to turf like this filly is, first time blinkers off with maidens. He wins 46% of the time and is in the money 10 for 13, 77% of the time. And even with as well as Wesley Ward's horses do get bet, it is still a big ROI of 333. So you will be making money. And this is a filly that's really proved herself. She ran in special weight company against the boys on the dirt and still finished second as the heavy favorite, actually, at Keeneland. She went back and faced the fillies on the turf and finished second there. Maybe you can argue she has a little bit of seconditis, but maybe the blinkers off will help.
And that's the thing. I should have used her probably in the top 4 because she is coming out of strong races. And Wesley Ward actually having a great winner yesterday, a first-time starter and maiden special weight company. But when you get fillies going against the boys at 2 in turf sprints or just sprints in general, I don't think it's as strong of an angle than other races. I just thought there might be some more enticing first-time starters in here, and one of them was the number 2 Objective Complete. And she doesn't have an outstanding turf pedigree. She is by Mission Impossible. The mare, she did not produce a winner, but I really am intrigued by her work tab. She was working with an older mare, I believe, who did face Stakes Company last weekend. So positive work tab, Jose Lezcano in the saddle. By no means am I fully confident with that pick, though. We have the 4 Oh So Terrible in here, the other Wesley Ward, who I think has a little bit more of a versatile tactical running style here. She can go or she can take back.
She does, and she took those blinkers off last time out where she did take back a little bit, and so we did see another dimension for her. She is a beautifully bred filly as well. And the number 3 Raging Town, I do think we have to mention, because this is a horse who I'm not crazy about the turf pedigree. She's trying the turf in here, but she's coming out of some very strong races and some very good performances for Barclay Tagg in here. I do think that she's one that might get some attention.
Of course, she is out of a mare who was Grade 1 winner on the dirt, though, a $1.4 million earner. And Barclay Tagg, I found a stat here because I was kind of looking at her long and hard. Dirt to turf with his sprinters over the past couple of years. He's 0 for 9, so it's not really a fruitful move. And you look at other trainers in here that are really quality turf sprint specialists, like Wesley Ward. His horses just run very well at this distance. So a wide open race. We could probably get into more pedigrees, but we don't really have the time. So we get to I'm really interested to see those horses in the paddock, though, later today. We get to the Grade 2 Fort Lauderdale. That is race 10, 1 1/16 on the turf. And this is probably my favorite race of the day from top to bottom, just absolute class abound.
It really is, and it was a tough race to single on. I think we should certainly start with Heart to Heart, who did win the El Prado right here at Gulfstream last time. He's 3 for 3 over this Gulfstream turf, but we know his game. He likes to be on the front end.
He does, and when he doesn't get the lead, he becomes a little bit rank, but Julian Leparoux is definitely well-versed with this horse. Let's show the El Prado once again on the 17th of December, last time out. And this just kind of shows how handy this horse is. We can see he actually breaks with his head up in the air, and Julian Leparoux having to ask him a little bit out of the gate. It didn't come as natural to him in this race, but he finally secures a position. And if the number 2 horse in that race kind of closed up that position on the rail, it probably would have been bad news, but he was fortunate enough to get that trip. And from there on, he ran his race. He settled. He was on the lead. I thought it was a huge performance from Flatline, who's been training really well, and he almost gets nailed at the wire. But where I think he might be stronger today, Acacia, is I think he's better at 1 1/16, longer distances than 7.5.
I do too. He's 3 for 3 at this distance as well. So that is why I did put him right on top. I did use Flatline to the 9 in third because I thought he closed in a huge performance last time out. And I do think he might have a shot in this race at a price. But what I think gives Heart to Heart the edge too, will show a trainer stat on Brian Lynch in the past 5 years on the turf with horses that won last time out in graded stakes. He wins 27% of the time, 49% in the money, and is a positive ROI of 238. So, and you know that he certainly knows this horse very well.
And Heart to Heart, although I do love him, I'm a big Divisadero fan, but Heart to Heart, you know, you can't say anything badly about him because he's got one kind of strategy, that's to go to the lead, and that's how he's had so much success. but he has had very fortunate trips and people never going with him and just letting him kind of milk the pace on the front end. Today, I can maybe see him getting away with it once again. The only other horses that I could foresee maybe softening him up would be Diamond Bachelor, who has speed, maybe even Rosebriar. He's not that slow either. So with that, I really like the number 10, Jay Gatsby. I'm going to take a shot with this horse because I have been following him for quite some time. And last time out in the Artie Schiller, I think it's an excusable performance. He stumbled out of the gate badly. He was taken well back from off of the pace in a race that horses didn't make up too much ground from. Huge performance in the Knickerbocker, trying to catch Heart to Heart, who went very slowly on the front end. And even if you look past that, Shining Copper, Ring Weekend, he's competed with the best of the best, and maybe today is his day.
He's run against some excellent horses, and he went pretty much down to his knees last time out at the start, so you can be forgiving of him in that race in the Artie Schiller, where there, I think that he is a horse that's been competing so well with some others that have really reached that level of exceptional. I don't know if he's been able to kind of break through the surface and get quite there yet. This certainly might be the day for him if somebody does go with Heart to Heart, or if Heart to Heart maybe starts to soften up a little bit. He is a 6-year-old now. I agree that I think Diamond Bachelor would be the one to be going with him. I just don't think Diamond Bachelor is perhaps as good, certainly not as classy as some of the other horses in this field. But you can certainly look and try to get a price with a horse that's maybe had a little bit of tough luck.
And now the other horse that we must definitely talk about is the number 7, Divisadero, coming back here. We haven't seen him since the Manhattan. He was given some time off. Talking to Buff Bradley, he said it wasn't really a serious injury, but they gave him some time, and then they didn't really find any races that really met his type of schedule. So they tap the brakes a little bit, decided to give him more time. So this is his comeback race, but we'll show him 2 starts back with his first Grade 1 victory there in the Turf Classic at Churchill on Derby Day. And this is a horse that I like to see him a little bit closer to the pace, and that's what he began to show in the latter half of his turf season, and I'm hoping that he can kind of revert back to that. I'm hoping he's a little bit more fresh today, because it's very hard to make up ground here on the turf course at Gulfstream, and I think that was his Achilles heel really every time that he ran at Gulfstream in the past.
And it is, and he will have to be a little bit closer tactically, as we do have several horses that do like to come from perhaps a little bit further back. But in that race, when he did win the Grade 1 Turf Classic, they went pretty quickly in that race as well. So he did have some pace to close into. He did get a pretty good setup. He's coming back fresh. It looks like he's been working well on the Palm Meadows turf course. We did see him schooling several times here at Gulfstream. Looks like he's really working to get back. I do need to see him take that next step forward and come back off of that performance last time out. And last time he was facing several Grade 1 winners in that last race in the Manhattan. So perhaps you can be a little bit forgiving of him.
And Buff Bradley even saying, you know, the purpose of this race is really to get him fine-tuned for the rest of the turf season coming up. He expects a good performance. He wants a win, but if he doesn't get a win, it won't be so disappointing. They're just really looking for this as kind of a little bit of a groundwork for the potential future here. But we get to the 11th race, Grade 3 House Hope. We go to the 1-turn mile onto the main track, and we totally disagree here. The 8, Mr. Jordan, is who you prefer.
I did, and I looked at this race for so long and must have crossed out on my paper 4 or 5 times whether I was going to put Mr. Jordan on top. Here are the good things. He's coming off 2 very impressive victories. He broke the track record at Gulfstream Park West last time. He was just sensational in his last 2 races. I don't think he was facing as tough as he'll face today, that's for sure, but he has back class as well. He did win the Grade 3 Pegasus. They thought enough of him to put him in the Grade 1 Haskell behind American Pharaoh. The bad things is that he's undefeated at Gulfstream Park West. He is 0 for 5 here at Gulfstream. So that is going to be his biggest, I think, hurdle that he has to overcome here.
And I'm wondering if he if there are kind of up-and-comers that might just be a touch better than him, and I can't knock him for any reason. I mean, he's consistent as the day is long, and he's actually in the best form of his life so far, so he could run a career best today and win. I can't get on his bandwagon for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. I just think that there are other better options in here, one of them being the 5 Amise Platter. We'll go back to his performance in the Grade 3 Commonwealth, but that was at Keeneland, but this is a horse who runs well fresh. We saw him coming off the layoff at Woodbine. He came back in January. He blew the field away. That was so impressive. He got a 105 Beyer speed figure for that. Came back to be defeated by Tommy Macho, but honestly, I don't like to use the word bounce, but he definitely digressed in that performance. And after that, Met Mile, no beating Frosted. To toss his turf race in the Grade 2 Phoenix, obviously. AP Indian set a new track record, and I don't think he's a 3/4 horse either. This distance is perfect for him, and he's a horse that's proven he can fire fresh.
And maybe that'll be the key. Maybe it is just as simple as getting back to this mile distance, coming off of a little bit of a freshening, hasn't run since October 29th. I didn't love his last race in the Bold Ruler, so maybe he just needed that little bit of time off, and he's certainly one to respect. He's been running against excellent competition. We certainly should talk about the number 2, Tommy Macho, who is cutting back a little bit in distance to this mile as well, where he's one going a bit longer, and he's another one that does have to rebound, though, off that last race.
Let's go back and show the Grade 3 Fred Hooper. That was on the 6th of February last year, and of all of the performances that we saw in South Florida last winter, I thought this was one of the more impressive performances, because at the time it was a tough field. We had Stanford in there, we had Grand Shores in there. It was a pretty decent field, and he ran away from the field pretty effortlessly. After that, unfortunately, he was sidelined due to, I believe, a knee injury. He came back and tackled very tough competition in the Kelso, and I think that just speaks volumes of Todd Pletcher's confidence with the horse. But no excuses could I pose for his performance in the Dickey Small.
And that is why I couldn't put him on top in here. Did use him second because he does have the back class. He's another one who's coming off a bit of a freshening, and maybe just a little bit of cut back of distance will help him. But a horse that is 6-1 on the morning line, and we both had some interest in, is the number 3 Birdsong for Ian Wilkes, who did show a lot of speed last time out and held on. And it's interesting, I remember in Saratoga, and you probably do as well, that Birdsong ran on the same day as Songbird, and they both did actually win. So maybe you had that own little funky kind of double. But we do have a trainer stat on Ian Wilkes, so not to be confused with Songbird, excuse me, but I do think he might have a shot in this race. This is with winners last time out in graded stakes on the dirt. Ian Wilkes does win 16% win. He does have a horse that won last time coming into this graded stakes level. It is a positive ROI of 203. And this one looks like he's been in pretty good form as well.
I was so tempted to pick this horse on top. I think he's got a lot of talent. You just see how he won his maiden special weight, or he broke his maiden. Impressive. He came back to follow through in an allowance race at Saratoga. Now in the King's Bishop, A, he got off to an awkward start. B, in the King's Bishop, we thought it was going to be this crazy pace duel up front, and he figured to be kind of one to sit just behind the speed, and that never came to fruition. Dreyfong just cleared from the outside, and it was all said and done from there. But the productivity of the Grade 1 King's Bishop, Dreyfong obviously coming back to win the Breeders' Cup, no holding back Bear coming back to take the Grade 3 Gallant Bob. I mean, all over. Even Tom's Ready came back to win a graded stake after that. So he's a horse that I think he has sneaky talent in here, and that last race was good. A huge field, and he just kind of dragged the rider to the front and won pretty easily. So I'm very interested in that horse. It's a great rendition of the House Hope. I was about to call it Mucho Macho Man. As we get to the 12th and final race of the day. Hopefully we can we're still alive here in terms of the pick 5 and the pick 6. The maiden 25. a 1.16 on the turf. Acacia, tell me about the 10.
Well, I had a tough time with this race, so I just went with a horse that looks to be the speed and is dropping in class and is trained by Mike Maker. I figured in a race that's pretty wide open like this one is, and to close it out, you could go with a horse that's shown quite a bit of speed. Just really weakened last time out, but that was against Special Weight Company at Fairgrounds, so dropping to this $25,000 maiden level. He will have to use that speed from the outside post, but I hope that he does get a good position early.
I went to the 7 Campaigners Gold. I think this is a horse that just continues to improve with each and every race underneath his belt. Last time out, Crown Lake was the winner. Good performance from him. That horse actually came back to run a 53 Beyer speed figure against open $20,000 company, and the 3rd place finisher came back to win a maiden 25. So I could foresee maybe this horse taking a step forward, also using the 8 I Majestic with your 10 too. That is races 1 through 12. Want to remind everybody again, we have race 1 starting with the Super High 5 and the early pick 5. That middle pick 4 starts in race 5 today, and of course the pick 6 in race 7, pick 5 in race 8. That is enough talking for us. We are going to get out of here. Pete Aiello will be up shortly with those scratches and changes. Best of luck.